In a dusty, forgotten corner of an old antique shop, two pairs of glass eyes stared into the gloom. One pair, cold and blue, belonged to a doll with fiery red hair and a stitched-up face, dressed in colorful overalls. He was Chucky, the infamous good guy doll containing the soul of a ruthless killer. The other pair, wide and unnervingly vacant, belonged to Annabelle, a vintage porcelain doll in a white dress, a conduit for something far older and darker. For years they had sat in silence, separated by a shelf of tarnished silver. Chucky, ever impatient, seethed in his plastic shell. He could feel the malevolent energy radiating from the other doll, a quiet, oppressive force that made the air thick and heavy. He hated it. It was a challenge to his own brand of chaos. One night, as a storm raged outside, a bolt of lightning struck a nearby transformer, plunging the entire block into darkness. The shop was swallowed by shadows, and in that sudden absence of light, a new energy crackled to life. A low, guttural chuckle echoed from Chucky's shelf. "Finally," he rasped, his plastic lips pulling back into a wicked grin. A little privacy. He swung his legs over the edge of the shelf, landing with a soft thud on the floorboards below. He stretched, feeling the familiar thrill of movement after a long, forced stillness. His eyes, glowing faintly in the dark, scanned the room and locked onto Annabelle's shelf. She hadn't moved, but he could feel her awareness, a silent, watchful presence. "So," Chucky began, his voice a gravelly sneer as he sauntered over, "you're the big deal around here, huh?" The haunted doll everyone whispers about. He stopped at the foot of her display, craning his neck to look up at her. "I gotta say, I'm not impressed. You just sit there. What's your game? Boring people to death?" The air grew colder. A faint, melodic tune, like a distorted music box, began to drift from Annabelle's direction. It was a sound that seemed to crawl under your skin. Chucky's grin faltered for a second. He wasn't scared, just annoyed. "Oh, a music box. Real original," he scoffed, pulling his trusty knife from a hidden pocket in his overalls. "I prefer a more hands-on approach." Suddenly, the glass cabinet door housing Annabelle swung open with a loud creak, though no one had touched it. The music box tune grew louder, more insistent. Annabelle's head slowly, mechanically, tilted to one side, her painted smile seeming to widen in the oppressive darkness. Chucky laughed. "All right, party trick number one. Cute." He took a step closer, raising his knife. "Let's see what you've got when things get up close and personal." As he approached, a rocking horse in the corner began to move on its own, its wooden runners thumping a frantic rhythm against the floor. Old toys tumbled from shelves, creating a clattering barrier between him and Annabelle. The entire room seemed to turn against him, animated by an unseen force. "You think a few falling toys are going to stop me?" Chucky snarled, kicking a teddy bear out of his way. "I've dealt with worse." He leaped onto a stack of old books, using them as a stepping stone to get to her shelf. He was almost there, his knife gleaming, when the music box tune abruptly stopped. Silence descended, heavy and absolute. And in that silence, a new sound emerged. A whisper. It wasn't from Annabelle's painted mouth, but it came from all around him. It slithered into his ears, a chorus of voices speaking in a language he didn't understand, yet he knew its meaning. Despair, fear, loss. Chucky froze. The whispers weren't just sounds. They were feelings. He felt a flicker of the terror his own victims had felt, a cold dread that had nothing to do with physical danger. This was different. This was soul deep. Annabelle's head snapped forward, her glass eyes fixed directly on him. The whispers intensified, weaving a tapestry of misery in the air. The temperature plummeted, and Chucky could see his own plastic breath fogging in front of him. This wasn't a doll with a killer soul. This was a beacon, a gateway for something else. What are you?" Chucky stammered, a rare note of uncertainty in his voice. The whispers coalesced into a single, clear voice that seemed to speak directly inside his head. It was ancient and vast. We are the ache in the heart of the world. We are the shadow that follows the light. You are a flicker. We are the endless dark. Chucky felt a pressure building around him, an invisible hand squeezing the very essence of his being. Charles Lee Ray's soul, trapped within the doll, recoiled. He was a killer, a monster, but he was a human monster. He reveled in fear, but it was the fear of the living, the tangible terror of the knife's edge. This was something else entirely, a spiritual void that threatened to consume him. He saw flashes of images in his mind, not his memories, but the memories of countless others. A little girl crying for her mother, a soldier lost on a battlefield, a lonely old man staring out a window. Generations of sorrow, all channeled through the silent, seated doll. "No," Chucky roared, shaking his head to clear the images. He was losing control, and he hated it. "I am Charles Lee Ray. I make the fear. I don't feel it." He lunged, ignoring the crushing pressure, and brought his knife down. But he didn't strike porcelain. Instead, his knife hit an invisible wall just inches from Annabelle's face. A shockwave of cold energy threw him backward, sending him flying across the room. He slammed into a wall and fell in a heap, his knife clattering away. He lay there, stunned. The room was spinning. The whispers were gone, replaced by the faint, melodic tune of the music box once more. It sounded triumphant, mocking. He struggled to his feet, his plastic body aching. He looked across the room at Annabelle. She was back in her cabinet, the door shut. She was perfectly still, just as he'd first seen her head straight, her painted smile serene. It was as if nothing had happened. But the oppressive cold remained, and the memory of the whispers was seared into his mind. Chucky gritted his teeth. He had faced down cops, families, even other supernatural entities. But this was different. He fought with knives and brute force. She fought with silence and despair. He was a storm. She was the deep, cold ocean that a storm could never truly touch. He looked at his knife on the floor, then back at the doll. He knew, with a certainty that chilled him more than any ghost, that he couldn't win this fight. Not like this. To stab her would be like trying to stab a shadow. He wasn't just fighting a doll. He was fighting the very concept of human misery. With a growl of frustration, Chucky snatched his knife from the floor. He gave Annabelle one last hateful glare. "This isn't over," he muttered, though his voice lacked its usual conviction. "There's more than one way to break a doll." He turned and slipped out of a broken window pane, disappearing into the rain-soaked night. He needed a new plan. He needed a new kind of weapon. He couldn't fight a demon with a knife. Inside the antique shop, silence reigned once more, broken only by the gentle patter of rain against the glass. Annabelle sat in her cabinet, her glass eyes staring into the darkness. A single pearly tear, thick like paint, rolled down her porcelain cheek and dripped onto her white dress, leaving a dark, permanent stain. The music box played on, a lullaby for the damned, waiting for the next curious soul to draw near. The battle was over for now, but in the world of cursed playthings, the war had only just begun. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this horror showdown, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss our next story. Let us know in the comments who you think would really win. See you next time.